and welcome to Business Source, brought to you by Connecting Business, the show that gives you authentic conversations to help your business. There's no smoke and mirrors, just real people sharing their experiences. I'm your host, Lee Nightingale, and today we're joined by Michael Haynes to talk about his business, Listen, Innovate, Grow. Michael is a SME marketing strategy advisor. Michael, welcome. Thanks for coming on the show. I'm so pleased to have you on.
Thanks for having me. It's great to be here.
Fantastic. Michael, what we'd like to do at the beginning here is just to get some context and some background into Michael the man and Michael the business owner and the business. Give us some context. What are you up to these days?
Okay, well, I guess we'll start off with Michael the business. So I, as you just said, am an SME marketing strategy advisor. So my focus, interest, and passion is all about empowering SME business leaders, CEOs, to help them acquire, retain, and grow their business clients and customers so they can have the growth and impact that they seek. I feel very strongly business to business, so selling your products and services to other businesses presents massive opportunities for SMEs, but you need to understand the landscape and how to work with those clients, the dynamics of it. But if you know how to do so, it can mean great opportunities. So that's really my passion and focus that I've been working in this space for, almost 10 years now, focusing in the SME space and in the B2B component specifically.
Fantastic. It's surprising how many people of late that I've been having conversations with, both on Business Source and off, that are focusing in this SME space and not big enterprise, big corporate. I very rarely hear people say, I really want to work in big corporate and enterprise. That's really where I want to be. That's so fulfilling and rewarding. Yes, you get paid generally quite well in that enterprise space because it's bigger ticket sales, but it's a real cutthroat industry. And my experience of having worked in those kind of environments is that the family environment, the feel, the culture just doesn't exist as much as the executives want it to exist. And then there's a huge shift in people wanting that kind of culture. It's just so difficult to get that bonding, that gelling with thousands of employees or tens of thousands of employees, and because some people just never ever meet.
Yes,
ever. And so but the SMEs can absolutely learn a lot from the enterprise because they've already gone through that growing pain, that growing period. They've learned things along the way, and again, in my experience, you go from startup where multiple heads on or hats, people doing multiple jobs, very, very agile, quickly moving, products developing rapidly, new business acquisition rapid, less focus on retainment because you've got fewer of those existing clients at that point, and it's easier to manage. And then you transition into the higher end small business, medium, and you've got your processes nailed down. People, you've got a brand going, things are nicely connected. And then something changes when you become the top end of the mid-size and go into the enterprise, where you end up back in silos. Different groups of the business not talking to one another, and the systems not talking to one another, because you get these people coming in, heading up business units, going, yes, but I want this and I want that, and we want to implement this technology, and I'm like, yeah, but that doesn't talk to anything. So it's amazing that transition. What do you find when you're working with these SMEs?
You're quite rightly, as the SMEs progress and grow, as they are growing, in order to be able to service those opportunities, those larger clients and customers, they do need to bring more complexity into the organization. So they need to have more, systems, more structure, or an organizational chart with roles and accountability. So there does become more complexity. The challenge, though, is to try and maintain that culture of innovation, empowerment, and allowing your staff to grow, develop, while you're growing as an organization. It's to maintain that balance so that you have the required level of sophistication and organization, but at the same time maintaining some of your initial grassroots. But yes, it is a challenge that as you go through that growth trajectory, it is difficult. It's a bit of a balancing act. I still do find, though, Lee, that SMEs often are much better at, because they have often started ingraining, developing the right kind of culture and the right kind of people, that as they grow, with the right leadership team, the right team in place, you can still maintain a lot of those core values and characteristics, which allow people to be entrepreneurial, innovative, and to have impact, which is what drives and draws a lot of people into working for SMEs, is that ability to have that impact, which goes far beyond promotions and big salaries, which quite frankly, you don't often get in large corporates. So that's, I think, one of the big draw cards. And so, yeah, it is a bit of a balancing act, but from what I've seen with good leadership, good team, and, you know, co-creation, collaboration, you can maintain those fundamental characteristics as the SME, it becomes a bigger, larger, more impactful entity.
Yeah, fascinating. I really like the innovation bit and empowering the employees to feel like they're part of something. They're less likely to crave that next step up in the ladder, and it should be almost, I'm not gonna say irrelevant, but there should be less of a focus on, if you feel you're making a difference and you're contributing and your voice is listened to, it's not about moaning about, hey, well, we haven't got a water cooler or we haven't got a vending machine or all that kind of stuff. That's not what we're talking about here. We're talking about valuable employees wanting to contribute to the experience that the customers have when interacting with you. Generally speaking, you know, they're the people at the coalface. They're listening to customer feedback. They're being told this isn't working, that's not right. Hey, you know, that took too long. You know, they've got all this wonderful insight, and they given the right platform to share that back internally and see the impact of that feedback and things progressing and developing is hugely rewarding.
Absolutely. And that's exactly what employees are looking for, is the ability to be meaningful contributors, to have their ideas, their efforts be actually utilized, recognized, and contributed to the growth of the organization, to the progression of the organization, and the progression of themselves. So that's very, very important in what they're looking for. And the key to success nowadays is that engagement and collaboration, both amongst your employees, but also having your employees engage, collaborate, and often co-create with your clients as well. That is a key factor to success on how SMEs can win and be successful in the marketplace and outbeat some of the bigger Goliaths at the bigger end of town.
Yeah, and it's got me wondering, when you're starting a company, you know, to take myself for example, starting out connecting business, and same for you. You know, you've got your values, you've got your idea about how you want the culture to be, and it's, I'm not going to say easy, but it's easier to start your journey. And we use the age-old adage about a ship starting off its journey 1 degree off at the beginning. You know, if you do start 1 degree off, you know, years down the line, you're going to be way off. It's difficult to recorrect that course. But if you start off on the right direction, you know, you're more likely to reach your target. So it feels easier within this startup / scale up to embed that culture, because it's a smaller, closer knit people, and you can very rapidly see whether people are going to fit within that culture and thrive within it, versus trying to bring back a Goliath enterprise business back on track. And I wonder why that is so difficult, given that the employees within the enterprise organization generally want that good culture. They're on board already. So why does it take so long? And I know you're an SME guy, but I'm just going to throw that enterprise challenge in there.
Sure. Well, I've done a lot of work in the corporate space. So I worked in corporate land before getting emancipated, well, self-emancipation in 2010. And the problem is because it's the way it's what's happening with your executive management, your boards, etc. A lot of the politics that lurks within those large organizations, which is why employees are not engaged or disenfranchised. They don't feel empowered, and that's why the right kind of culture is not created. Hence, why they often have a problem retaining good people and staff, because while the employees, the worker bees may want these things, a lot of what is ingrained in the organization, what's happening at higher levels of the organization, inhibits that empowerment, innovation, collaboration, the ability to be entrepreneurial, all these things that often many employees are looking for so that they can be engaged and fully satisfied. They just aren't inherent in a lot of your big, large organizations.
Yeah. I'm really interested to hear more about the approach that you take with the Listen, Innovate, Grow philosophy. Maybe you can sort of share some more around that and around your belief about the buyer-centric process.
Sure. So, Lee, one of the fundamental things when you're selling, products and or services to other businesses, whether we're talking professional services like legal services, accounting services, or technology, one of the fundamental characteristics is that buyers and users are not one and the same, and that becomes particularly important when you're talking your larger scale organization. When we're starting to talk about larger SMEs, so mid-enterprise, big corporates, government, often those which are going to be the decision makers and buyers of the technology. That might be some, senior level, your chief technology officer, the chief financial officer, for example. They may be two of your key decision makers, but who's actually using that solution or those technology services would be maybe your project analyst, your mid-level managers, etc. And so the key to success, if you want to be getting into those larger organizations and develop long-term relationships and get lots of opportunity to expand and grow, you need to understand the buyers within those organizations, what motivates them, what drives them, and also how they buy, and help them to be meeting their objectives. So in terms of my framework, Listen, Innovate, Grow, it's all about really the three fundamental things that I will talk in the context of our people, SMEs, they need to do to build and have sustainable, profitable business. One, you need to be listening. So listening helps you know where to focus. And by listening, Lee, I'm talking about having an in-depth understanding on three levels. You need to be listening to you as your company, the SME, and the business owner. So what are your goals? What are your visions? What are your priorities? What is the company good at? So, you have to look at the data. So, where are you making your sales and your profits? Are there certain kinds of customers, certain kinds of markets, certain kinds of offerings? What is the company particularly good at? Do you have certain skills, certain capabilities, certain strengths? So really knowing what you're all about, where you're good at, and really having clarity about that. Then there's listening to the market. So listening to the market, it's all about understanding within those, industries, verticals, geographic markets, what's going on in terms of trends, developments. What are your competitors doing? Are there external environmental factors going on? Are there regulations? Are there broad end customer needs that are changing? And making sure you have an understanding of those so you can understand where it is you fit. And then the third level of listening, Lee, is listening to customers. But in B2B, you need to be listening to the buyers. Very important when you're dealing with any organization, because even if you're selling SME to SME, chances are you will have at least one other person in the decision-making process. I've worked with micro businesses where you'll have the CEO, and then they will have their, fractional chief strategy officer or chief risk officer. There'll be a couple other people that you have to gain their approval of and making sure that you're meeting their requirements. So it's really about having an understanding on those three levels. Very important that you understand who the buyers are. And in this environment, Lee, now, business buyers now are doing a lot of buying by consensus. So there's more people involved in the decision making, and there's a lot more risk aversion. So everyone wants to make sure, you know, that they're clear on what they're doing. Business buyers right now are seeking decision maker confidence in themselves to know what decisions to make, what actions they need to take, and knowing where to go. And then they also want to be confident in those products and service providers that they're dealing with. And so it's very important that you have that understanding in terms of the priorities, requirements. Where are your prospective clients trying to get to? Because it's no longer, the whole selling now, Lee, is changed, and it's all about really working, collaborating, working with your customers to help them get where they want to go, and really providing that direction, that action plan, that roadmap, how they're going to get there, and working with them to get there. So it's a very, sales is no longer about show up and throw up and give the pitch. It's really more about what happens after the sale now. How are you going to work with me to help me achieve my objectives of going into new markets, creating, you know, whatever entity, the impact that I ultimately want to be getting. So by having the listening on those three levels of listening to you as the business, listening to the market, listening to the customers, that tells you where to focus. So where should you be focusing your efforts in terms of industry, markets, customers, and buyers? Once you know that, then it's about innovating to know how to win. And by innovation, I'm not talking about just technology, because often people think about its invention and its technology. I'm talking based on your understanding of your industry, market, customer, buyer needs, what introductions or new improvements you need to be making within your business to meet those needs, to take advantage of those opportunities. So it could be things like, you know, improving your product, improving your services. It could be around organizational innovation. So it could be around engaging in strategic partnerships, joint ventures, where you're aligning with and working with other organizations to meet those to meet your business customers' needs that they require. So for example, it could be a marketing firm working with an IT firm to help deliver those marketing technology solutions that a client's looking for. It could also be about process innovation. One of the big things I think that SMEs should be really looking at is that whole collaboration and co-creation with your clients, because that is a great way in terms of how you can build something for your clients that will not only win with them, but then you also have the ability to be able to roll that out to other markets. So, you know, are there co-creation opportunities? And then of course, there's marketing innovation in terms of new marketing strategies. And quite often, there's often a lot of opportunities there, Lee, because I find with many SME folk, in terms of their understanding of marketing, it's often very limited. And we think about social media, we think about email, but there are a lot of other marketing strategies. So, you know, so what are your go-to-market strategies, micro-influencer strategies, advocacy programs, account-based strategies. So there's a whole raft of other marketing strategies, your customer experience strategies, which I believe need to be a dual customer experience strategy aimed at buyers.
And the data, right? I mean, people.
All of this has to be data-driven. Absolutely.
Exactly, yes.
All data-driven, it's all insight-driven. But by having your understanding, by doing your listening and knowing where you need to focus, then you know what levers to pull in terms of what kinds of business innovations. And they've shown you'll need to often innovate and make new introductions or improvements across multiple areas over and above product. So you'll make some product modifications, but you might introduce some new marketing strategies. You might undertake joint ventures, partnerships. It usually will take multiple business innovations in order to meet those priorities and objectives of where you want to focus on. And so that's listen. So listening about where to focus, innovate how you win. So what are those new introductions and or improvements that you might make across the business to meet those customer, market, buyer needs? And then growth is all about how do you obtain that growth and how do you maintain that growth? So what are the different growth pathways that you're going to pursue? Are you going to have new markets, new customers, new product offerings, or a combination thereof, going after market share? So what are those different pathways you're going to leverage and utilize? And then how are you going to maintain that growth? So that's where we talk about, you know, financial management. How do you introduce the changes in the organization? Because as you're developing new offerings and new strategic partnerships and collaboration, there's going to need to be that whole change management when you're looking at doing new ways of doing business, creating new things. And so it's all about making sure you have the right kind of people, so your people management. So it's all about obtaining that growth, but then maintaining that growth as well. And so that's your listen, innovate, grow framework. And it's really a way of doing business that you continually are listening to the market, your industries, customers, and continually doing that monitoring, and based on your understanding what's going on in the marketplace within your organization, making those modifications and doing your innovating, growing, it's in an ongoing, continuous fashion.
Right, and that, I mean, that I love all that. And what you saw me looking down here, for those that are watching the video, is I'm making notes, and I highly recommend that you do the same. Go back, watch this video again, and make some notes. But the key element that I wrote, and I don't mind sharing this, I'm not sure it's going to come across on the screen, but I've got the listen, innovate, grow, but I've got here employees with an arrow to every section. So the
and you're quite right, Lee.
Sits
it's
across
critical,
all of them,
because you must work cross-functionally. That is the key. That's an underlying key success factor. You have to work cross-functionally. So as you're gaining those learnings from listening to customers and buyers, you need to be feeding that back into the organization and sharing that across your product teams, your client service teams, your customer success team. Everyone needs to be working together. Marketing and sales need to be working hand in glove together in terms of understanding the customer, client, buyer requirements. How are they going to be engaging with those clients? Feeding that information back to the customers, feeding that back into the organization. When you're doing all your business innovating of creating new products, new services, co-creating, all of these things will require that cross-functional collaboration, working together. That's paramount.
Yeah, it's interesting. You mentioned the hand and glove. We would say hand in hand rather than one being inside the other. When it comes to sales and marketing, that's probably the area that we see the biggest internal struggle, because you've got salespeople wrongly demanding more hot leads, which I think is wrong, because then you're not selling. And there's the process in which sales go through with the client is different to the marketing process. And what I'm meaning by that is we found that in a lot of organizations where they're implementing CRM, is that the marketing team are leading the project. And so it becomes very marketing focused. And there's a huge element to it. There's a huge element to it. In fact, there's probably more for marketing when it comes to a strategy, because it's so granular, so diverse, so data driven, so many different journeys and experiences and platforms, and new business versus retention versus upsell. There's loads of different areas in which they have to build out their strategy. But what we found is where they tend to bump heads between sales and marketing is that their marketing try and implement the sales process. They're saying, well, we've done all this front end stuff, we've done all the marketing bit, and now this lead's going to be passed to you, and you're going to do this with it, and this is what our expectation is. And I'm not saying that's entirely wrong, but I'm saying that it needs to be a collaboration, as you say, because there is a handover, but there needs to be a mutual respect of saying, okay, look, yes, you've given us this. We need to understand what we need to do to give you the reporting and analytics that you need. So if we're not doing certain things and your reports and analytics are broken, then that's clearly not going to work. But we own the sales process. So let us handle that. We've found them, they're sort of bumping heads there, where the marketing team's trying to overthrow the sales team, say, no, this is what you should do. But ultimately, what they're both missing is that buyer-centric element, because neither of you own that sales process. The buyer, the customer, owns that sales process, that buying process.
Yes, and you're exactly right, Lee. And so it's not about us versus them, marketing versus them. Marketing and sales need to be working together, and they need to be working collaboratively from the outset, and they need to be taking a buyer-driven view in terms of understanding who are those decision makers, what is it they need, and how is it that they buy? Because the problem with B2B right now is not so much around B2B selling, it is about the way buyers buy, and that has changed. And buyers themselves are jaded. I consider them like people that have been on a date, been in the dating scene for too long. They are very jaded now. They're very jaded because internal buying, particularly in larger organizations, it can be rather complex in and of itself. You've got lots of different people involved in the buying decision process. They are all looking for different information and different things. And so we all need to be working in terms of catering to the needs of those buyers in terms of what they need, what are they trying to achieve, how do they buy, and helping to facilitate them through the buying process. So marketing and sales really need to be working together to drive buyer enablement so that those decision makers are getting what they need to facilitate that whole buying process. So it requires them to be working together. It can no longer be this us versus them, because that's not how buyers buy now. They never have, and even less so now, more in this environment where they're doing a lot of self-educating, and they're in this environment, I think, somewhat bombarded with information overload, and they're trying to make sense of what the heck do I do, because they go onto Google and HubSpot saying one thing and some other report saying another thing, and they don't know where they should be going, what they should be doing. But they do know that there are certain objectives that they're trying to achieve. We have to be working together as product and service providers to help them move forward.
Fantastic. And I wonder, and I'm not expecting you to answer this accurately, but I wonder how many SMEs have a process of obtaining that feedback that isn't an automated feedback survey. Hey customer, you just bought this. Do you want to give us some feedback? I'm talking about picking up the phone as the CEO, owner of the business, and not just talking to your big clients who are going to love you because you're giving them lots and lots of love and lots of time and free products and whatever. I'm talking about not the top 10 to 20% of your business, not the bottom 10 to 20%. I'm talking about the middle bit, where your core customers that are giving you a good amount of revenue, they're not being so needy. Pick up the phone, call and speak to them about what their experience was and is in working together with you and buying that product. How was that process? What about the delivery of the product or a service? How has that gone? How could we improve? We really want to listen to you. That's where I think businesses could do better.
Yeah, I agree with you 90%. You do definitely need to be engaging in discussion. It's not about surveys. Surveys have a purpose, but really there need to be some in-depth, meaningful discovery sessions where you're getting on platforms such as this and having some discussions, ideally cross-functional discussion with some of your customers, and you should get it across the customer base. So those that love you, those that aren't so keen on you, as well as in the middle. So you get a full cross-section to understand what's missing, what do they need, so you can identify the opportunities. But you're absolutely right, Lee. It is about having some meaningful engagement and setting up engagement mechanisms to be able to have those dialogues and discussions. That is a key part of your listening, which I find many organizations, full stop, large and small, often tend not to do. And it's something often I have to introduce to them to be doing, as to say, okay, there are a number of things we can be doing here. Customer advisory panels, strategic customer workshop, where you can have discovery sessions, where you can have those meaningful discussions to get that depth of understanding. So Lee, while we're on that, what are you guys doing at Connecting Business with regards to doing some of that, being you are customer relationship management folk and all? What are you doing to practice as we preach, or practice what we preach, so we say?
I think, putting me on the spot there, I think inherently, because of the nature of what we're doing with a client, embedding, implementing, integrating, or improving the Salesforce platform that sits across all departments, or at least it should. That's what it's designed to do, or integrate with other platforms that sit. But ultimately, I guess we're finding that by default, we are having conversations with all areas of the business. And what we find is that there tends to be a little bit of a, oh, you know, when you explain the entire process end to end on what's happening today, there's a bit of a, oh, we're doing that? Really? You know, we're doing it that way? We're not doing this, or that seems weird, you know, because they are, because of these silos, and a lack of understanding of the entire end-to-end thing. So we find that by doing the workshops where we get the customers to walk us through their entire process, you get these light bulb moments that come on within the person that's doing the mind map and the journey. They get to a point and they stop and they're like, that's crazy. Why are we doing that?
Yeah.
And it's really rewarding and satisfying when that happens, because you're not giving them the answer. I guess it's almost like therapy or coaching. In fact, I have had clients say that at the end of workshops, God, that felt like therapy. They're getting to the answers themselves. You're
Yes.
sort of guiding them through. Now, when it obviously comes to the tech and what's possible and what can be done, what can't be done, you know, is what we've got going to fulfill what we need? Of course, that is absolutely us, and that's what we're there to do. But figuring out that process, you know, because of course it's not our business, and we try our very best to ingrain ourselves within the organization to understand that entire process. But you know, they've been going for years, but potentially, so they've got far more understanding of the history of the business and the buyers and the processes and everything. So it's really rewarding to help walk them through that process and see those light bulbs go off, where we say, that's broken, we can do that better, that's too slow, we're not getting the stuff we need from here, you're not talking to them, this platform doesn't talk to that. And they see it, and there's this big aha moment, and then of course they turn to you and say, okay, well, how can you fix it?
But that's exactly what more SMEs, more organizations need to be doing, is providing that roadmap, that direction, working with them. Again, it's about helping them to get to their end objectives. That's exactly what business buyers are looking for, and there needs to be a lot more of that to say, did you know, what's broken, what's not working, enlightening them about new opportunities. Have you thought about, a new kind of offering? Have you thought about these underserved segments or these other market opportunities? You're thinking about market expansion. So it's about providing ideas, insights, suggestions. That's exactly what they're looking for as part of that decision maker confidence, because that is ultimately what buyers are seeking out. They want that roadmap and that direction to help them see through all the gunk and mess as to get to a way forward. So you're doing exactly what they need.
Fantastic. Now I'm really keen to get under the hood on Michael the man, the person. Given this challenging year we've had so far, probably the most challenging in our lifetimes, given our age range. We haven't really experienced war, notwithstanding the Middle East. It wasn't on these shores, certainly. But how have you managed to cope with what's gone on? Because it's been up and down. It's been a huge roller coaster. In lockdown, out of lockdown. Is there a vaccine? Isn't there? Thousands of people dying. It's really sort of messing with everybody's head. And I just wonder, what have you done during this period to keep yourself strong, healthy, sharp, motivated? Perhaps share a bit about that.
Sure. So a number of things. I've been making sure that I've been going to the gym regularly to maintain my fitness, because I find for myself, when I'm feeling fit, then the brain is fit, I'm feeling good about things, and I'm just more energetic and able to tackle things. And Lee, I am a lover of food. I do love to cook, and yeah, I enjoy eating. So yeah, I need to make sure
you got me on that one, definitely.
Because food is my vice. So I've been doing that. On the weekends, I try to unwind. So, like many other folks, I'm a big Netflix fan, a bit, watching, streaming TV. I'm a big athletics fan as well. So I've been watching lots of videos of some of my current favorite athletes, previous athletes, watching some of them from an athlete's perspective, but there have been a few athletes that I quite follow they've got a really good mindset and outlook on things. So I've been watching a few motivational talks by the like of Gail Devers, who's a former Olympian hurdler, Carmelita Jeter, the second fastest woman alive. I've been watching quite a bit of her talks because she's got a very good mindset about just how you translate what they do on the track into life. Sanya Richards-Ross talks about the 4 Ps she uses in the 400-meter sprint and how that translates to life. And it just helps me kind of reset my mind in terms of just getting in the zone to deal with some of the frustrations and challenges, as you would know, being an entrepreneur, and particularly in this environment where we're trying to maintain. I've done a bit of a pivot on my own business as well, because I, like everyone else, have been impacted as a result of COVID. So yeah, so those are some of the things that I've been doing to kind of maintain my sanity, keep fit. I've been using, a lot of people have Zoom fatigue. I haven't minded, to be quite honestly, because it keeps me connected with friends and family. And I'm also now collaborating with business colleagues elsewhere, such as yourself, who I haven't done previously. So those are some of the things that I've been doing just to kind of, keep sanity and keep going. And I don't watch the news too much. In the height of the pandemic, I would only watch probably 15 minutes a day, once in the morning, late at night, because some of the sensationalism can be a little bit over the top. And I just found, for me, watching too much of the news really it was counterproductive. So very limited watching of news during the height of the pandemic. I found that was paramount above anything else, really, to just make sure I stay positive and kind of in the right zone.
What I really liked in that was the minute you started talking about athletics, your face lit up, the passion in you for athletics.
My favorite sport by far. Some of my friends back in Canada think I'm the ultimate geek because I know the athletes, the personal best, some of their records. And when I see some of these vlogs of some of these folks talking about certain athletes, that's wrong. No, they got 3 NCAA titles, not 2. No, they train with this guy. So it's my favorite sport. Yeah.
But the bit what I really like, and I shared with you on a call we had a week or 2 ago, is that we can still learn from things unrelated to our business. In fact, absolutely go and talk to people unrelated to your business. And I think I shared the Last Dance about Michael Jordan, for example, the basketball thing. Unbelievable show, docu-series. And I've done a recording, not yet released, with a guy called Jesse Fagan in Peru, who was a university maths teacher, now international birdwatching tour guide. I mean, what is a CRM expert doing talking to a bird-watching tour guide, you might ask? But I absolutely loved that conversation because he had, other than what I'd shared with him about what my business was, he's completely disconnected from it emotionally because he's got no relation to it. And so we were able to sort of have a business conversation, unemotional, about processes and tech and all that kind of stuff. And I was helping him and he was helping me. And it was just really great because it's almost, I don't want to call him a child, but it's like, when you go to ask a child a question and they just give you the honest answer, and they go, yeah, but why don't you just do that? That's what you get from having those conversations with people outside of your comfort zone, outside of your industry. You get that just absolute blunt, okay, from what you just said, why don't you do that? Or have you tried this? Because they haven't got the blah, 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 of all the experience and good and bad and everything that you've gone through. It's a bit like in golfing terms, when all these young kids come out, they're fearless when they're on the putting greens because they haven't got that scar tissue of missing that that 1 and 2 foot putt. It comes. I can assure you, it comes. But travel, Michael. You're down in Australia, and obviously you've got a wonderful country down there. But you, like me, in fact, you more so than me, are huge traveler and enjoy that. So how has that been? Because you haven't been able to do it, mate.
Oh, yes, yeah. We've been on lockdown here and we'll be on lockdown for a while. You can't see my little Air Canada plane there. It'll be a while before I'm on a long haul jet. Yeah, look, I've just really just been focusing on, like I said, some of the things I've been talking about, just trying to keep fit and mindset, doing a lot of work on the business and really making those kind of the core priorities until borders open up and we can be traveling. But rest assuredly, when that is available, I will be taking laptop and Listen, Innovate, Grow will be operating off the continent. I do love Australia, but once the borders open, I will be on an extended trip to kind of
going global.
Friends, family, etc. So I'll be working remotely out of this country for probably at least a couple months. I've already decided that whenever the borders open up. Yeah.
And using the Spanish. Using the Spanish you've been learning, I hear.
Lee, I will have to kind of get my Spanish back up to speed because, yeah, I did that trip. Actually, last week was exactly 10 years ago I completed the Machu Picchu trek. A couple friends down in Melbourne texted and said, yeah, it was 10 years ago. So I'll need to brush up on the Spanish, but I had a fantastic time doing that volunteering in Peru, working at the after-school program
Nice.
for like 3.5 weeks. And so I would like to go back to South America and do some more volunteering and working with kids in that kind of education capacity. Profe Mike, as they call me, I think has to work on his Spanish to get it back up to par. But it was a phenomenal experience working in an indigenous community and, in this community center, which was built out of mud and working with kids from ages 4 to 16. Yeah, that was really, it was a phenomenal experience. It was a lot of fun.
Well, I'm looking forward to having another conversation with you then, because we did some work for a charity called LAF, Latin American Foundation for the Future, which is based in Peru and was creating a safe environment for vulnerable children. So I'd love to have a chat with you about that. And if I said to my wife, hey, we're going to Peru to do some volunteering, she would like, what day we're going.
Yeah,
she absolutely wants to do that.
Yeah, it's a great country. I spent 7 weeks there, and yeah, it was fantastic. And although I stayed with a instructor from the language school where I do my Spanish, and then I'd have Spanish from 9 till 12. Go back to Profe Maria's house, have lunch, and then I would go to this local market and catch this 1973 Toyota de Huerto and pay like 20 cents and take it 45 minutes up into the mountains to this village called Huayacoche, and I'd work up this after-school program from 3 until 6:30, and I'd have to make this big vat of this. It looked like dirty water. It was just this soupy brown stuff, which only locals could have. They said, me being a foreigner, it said, it'll do a number on your stomach. But yeah, we had to serve that along with vitamins at 5:30, and then at 6 o'clock, I would walk to the top of the end of the dirt road and catch this van and take it back down into Cusco. Yeah, it was phenomenal just doing things like that. Yeah, it was really, really good.
That food aside at the top of the mountain there, which is just a necessity, I'm sure. I bet you experienced some wonderful culinary experiences in Peru.
Oh, amazing. Yes. The food was awesome. Yeah. And you can go everything from the street food to when you get to Lima, some of the best restaurants in the world are in Lima. And because of the currency, you can go high end and not have to break the bank. So yeah, it's just phenomenal. Yeah, Peru and all of South America is a phenomenal place. It's my favorite continent in the world. Yes,
absolutely. So during all those travels and during all this lockdown and all the spare time we've had, you must have read some good books. I wonder if you could share those with the viewers and listeners.
Sure. So 2 books. I'll start with the business book first. We'll get that out of the way. So one of the books that I've been reading is called Buyer-Centered Selling by Thomas Williams. And so it's a B2B book, and it's all about how to be buyer-centric, you know, the whole importance of having a discovery session with buyers to really understand their requirements, priorities, how do you work with them, creating that mutual action plan. So you're developing a strategy, mutual action plan of how you're going to work with your customers to get where they want to go. So it talks about retention, acquisition, retention, expansion, that whole collaboration. So really fantastic book to really understand the modern B2B buyer as they are right now, and how do you attract them, work with them. So it's a whole new way of really approaching, you know, the whole selling, which is really about, you know, again, that cross-functional collaboration across you as the B2B selling organization. And I think that's how we have to look at it, as a selling organization that works cross-functionally. So that's one book I've been reading. And then there's another book that I'm rereading again, called Start Where You Are by Chris Gardner. And it's all about mindset, about going from where you are to where you want to be. They actually made a movie about it with Will Smith. I can't remember the actual name of the movie, but yeah, Start Where You Are by Chris Gardner. Fantastic book. So he has the 5C framework that you should have in terms of having your plan for your life: clarity, concise, compelling, consistent. Oh, and one other. So I've just started rereading it, and it's just about really getting your mind set and doing what you need to do to get where you want to go. And this is a gentleman that went from rags to riches to living on the street. Like, he's kind of went through all the different cycles. And yeah, it's a really good book. And I just find it's a great book to just kind of, in terms of just kind of getting that mindset in place and keeping it in check, because given the volatility, Lee, that we're going through day in, day out, it's just to kind of help keep focused, grounded, and positive. So yeah, Start Where You Are, fantastic book.
Wonderful. Michael, thank you so much. I've really enjoyed our time together, and I'm so glad that we've been introduced, and I've really enjoyed our conversations. Really looking forward to working with you going forward. Love your enthusiasm and passion for what you do, and I would encourage everybody to go back, make notes, as I have done here. Even though we've spoken before, I've still learned new things from what we've talked about today that I can implement today. You know, there's stuff in there that we've talked about that there's no reason why you can't change that mindset and go, I'm going to do that, and we are doing that. So thank you so much for sharing your journey and what you're doing with your clients. Yeah, really appreciate your time.
Thanks for having me, Lee. This has been fantastic. Really enjoyed this conversation, our conversation we had in preparation for this. Yeah, it's all been really fun and insightful as well. So I've enjoyed it. It's been fantastic.
Wonderful. All right, everyone, thanks for joining us on Business Source. We look forward to seeing you, hearing from you again, and highly recommend connecting with Michael Haynes on LinkedIn of Listen, Innovate, Grow. Thank you.
Thanks.